to stop what you're doing and listen.
Yo, welcome to the Laymen show.
Yes, welcome.
Special guest today.
Can you believe it? Radio presenter extraordinaire.
The Wolfy himself.
Exactly, Wolfy.
It's a delight. It's an absolute delight. Do you know, one of the things that I was looking forward to today is the fact that somebody's interviewing me
It flips the
for a
script.
change.
Exactly.
Instead of me having to look interested.
We've got to pretend.
So where shall we start? You are a radio presenter.
Well, I suppose that's how the story sort of ends at the moment.
People call you the bearded guy from the radio.
Do they?
I mean, are you also not like a clarinet extraordinaire or something?
A musician
What is your
Forte.
Yeah, what is your music?
Well,
your instrument of choice.
You see, what
A
I've
club.
what I've got is a very, very small talent, Gleaton game, which I spread over a very large area.
Spread it wide and thin.
Absolutely. I knew from a very early age that I wasn't going to be any more than mediocre at most things, so I chose a small frame of reference.
Right. Something where there's not much competition.
Yes, particularly if it's a musical instrument, I play unusual Renaissance and medieval instruments, and I think you've seen pictures occasionally.
I'm sure I've seen him with a lute or
I was going
something.
to say it was with like a lute or maybe a lyre.
And a serpent, something that's
Yeah, this tubular
curling
thing.
that you blow at the end.
I actually thought you'd made it yourself.
No, not at all. It didn't come from B&Q at all. It cost quite a bit
I was
actually.
gonna say.
It did. It's because it's unusual, and I feel a certain affinity with it because of that. And I started to play all these different instruments because I wanted it said, who plays one of those?
Then you can just put your hand up, me.
Well, Wolfy O'Hare does.
Yes.
Is he any good? Nobody's the only one. So that it works that way.
So I'm wondering, would people like Paul Jackson be interested in casting you with your medieval instrument?
Well, I'm sure I could. I'm sure I could fade into the background in one of his films, couldn't I? Yes, I could be
You couldn't fit
hobbit
into
on
the
left.
background of anywhere Wolfy.
Well, this is how.
Stand out like a sore thumb.
This is how I came to be on the radio.
Ah.
You see, I went along. It was called a blokes singing workshop. It was to tempt men into opening their mouths and not just giving their opinion, but actually just saying, singing and doing something musical. And I saw that at the bottom of Chandler's Avenue. I thought, well, I'm going to go for that. So I booked myself a place, went along to it, and I thought, for once, it's a musical event where I don't have to do any arranging, I don't have to do any practice, I don't have to do any sheepdogging of other people to get them into the right place at the right time. Because there's nothing worse than musicians for this kind of thing. You have to grab them from the pub, from here, from the library, and get them together in one place. So
Getting all the egos together.
well, absolutely. I'd have them wearing Crocs, then the ego could just flow out through the hole. So what happened then is I went along to this singing workshop, and I thought, well, yes, I shall just go to the back and just in the background. And this man came to me in the break and went, "Can I take your photograph?" And I thought, I hope he means clothed.
And just scouting for glamour models, and Wolfy, you fit the bill.
Draw me like your French one.
Yes.
Sketching him like the Titanic.
Well, you've got to ask. I mean, you have to ask. I've lived a bit, and I'm sure you've lived a bit. And sometimes when people approach you unawares, you've got to do a bit of a double take, haven't you? And make an assessment.
You got to clarify.
You have to.
Yes.
I mean, like you lot.
Get it in writing.
Yeah.
And so, he took the photograph and he said, "I'm a painter. I'm interested. You've got an unusual face." I thought, "Gee, thanks." So
you took that as a compliment then?
Well, I just let take the photographs, you see. And then about 6 months later, I was in Cafe Nero with Cole, and this voice goes, "Wolfy!" Who's this? And it turned out to be the artist. And he said, if you want your painting, then come to the BBC and collect it. Oh, this is getting even more interesting now. Nothing ever happens to me. And then it turns out it was Phil White from the BBC.
Yeah.
And he's a painter. So he said, you can have one of the paintings because I've done two. So I went to the BBC to collect it. He said, would you like to look around? I thought, well, yes, it's the only opportunity I'm ever going to get to look inside here. So we went on a tour of the various places of what people do, and he must have realised at some point during this tour of the BBC that I was no stranger to opening my mouth and shutting it.
I can just picture it. You're taking a talk, and all you can hear is just Wolfy talking, commenting.
Well, so he said, would you fancy appearing on a radio programme? And I thought, well, might as well. So he introduced me to Fiona Mills.
Fiona Mills.
Yes, Fiona Mills. And then I went on Fiona Mills unheard and uncensored, and rapidly became known as Watershed Wolfy. So I was moved towards 9 o'clock. And I mean, they did bait me, didn't they? They baited me all the time, beautifully so, I've got to say, because
What am I saying?
the first. No. If I'm going to be playing my own trumpet, I shall be doing it in private. So, what?
He's not for hire.
Who's not for hire?
You're doing certain acts.
I am for hire. I am for hire. You like it? Hire me. Where was I? You see,
you were talking about meeting Fiona Mills.
Oh yes, that's right. And the first. Yeah, I was known as Dr. Digress at university. The subject was, the first thing was swingers. I was invited in to talk about.
Well, see, these assumptions that people make of you.
Well, I wouldn't know. I would just hold the coats. I think. I would hold the coats.
Lube.
Yes. Would you like this? Would you, some of that? No, I've satisfied most of my curiosity about sexuality by this time in my life. Thank you very much.
Well,
I have the filthiest imagination possible. However.
That's where it
I don't
starts.
think so. You haven't delved into our imagination yet.
Well, it's always good. It's always good to keep up a skill, isn't it?
Yes,
it is. But in terms of the practice nowadays, I much prefer to make friends rather than. I'm not interested in people's bits anymore. I'm interested in what people have got to say.
And I think, well, you know, it shows. We've listened to your show. We've actually been on his show.
Twice.
Just a little disclaimer, the Laymen Show does not support that statement. We are interested in bits.
I'm sure they are. You see, you're of an age when being interested in bits is still a thing.
Yes.
It's still a thing.
Yeah. Don't tell my missus.
It's a bit late for that, isn't it? The show goes out unedited.
She doesn't watch this.
Does she not?
No.
What can I say, Wolfie?
Well, that's hardly very supportive, is it?
It's an equal opportunities hatred.
Wonderful. Yes, so then I was I've been a regular guest on Fiona Mills' show, and I love to be on her show because she's really natural, really involves people and gets people to talk. It's marvellous to watch. And it was one of those evenings when there was a presence outside the Studio 1, and this sort of rather thick-set man goes, "You want to be on the radio? You want to be on the radio? You want to be on the radio?" And I went, "Oh, life gets interesting." And it turns out it's Mr. Mills. It's
Pete Mills?
Pete Mills.
What was wrong with his throat?
Well, that's what he sounded like. "You want to be on the radio?" I think he was trying to lure me.
All right, using a seductive tone.
I think he gets confused between luring and threatening.
I don't think there was anything seductive in it. So I said yes. I thought it was going to be as a guest, but it turned out he wanted to train me to use the machinery.
Wow.
And that was quite a challenge, really.
That was the beginning of Wolfy's training.
Well, it was.
Wolfy's domestication.
Yes, I was brought in from the wild.
Yeah.
I was brought in from the wild and well, not necessarily tamed, just organised, I think. But the training was great, and I found it challenging because my concentration sometimes isn't quite what it should be.
I mean, that happens to the best of us.
Yeah, of course it
Best
does.
of times.
There's been times when we've podcasted, and to be honest, Wolf, we were actually asleep.
Those episodes don't get aired.
Except as ASMR.
Yes,
Yes, that's right. Just Gabe snoring
Or-
away,
or-
scratching himself.
Or on YouPorn.
Inappropriate.
There's a lot of spooning involved.
Well, I've always had a bit of a problem with concentration, really, and I thought this is why the radio training and any form of training I've ever done in my life has always been beneficial. I don't know if you can see. Can you see the marks on my head?
What? Like a line?
Yeah.
Yes.
One on the other side as well.
The Wolf is going to tell us about when he was a football thug now, isn't he?
It's when I was born.
Yeah.
I was born, of course, in 1954, and before
19 what?
54.
You're about the same age as my dad.
Most of our viewers do not know what that year is.
I was born in 1954, and obstetrics at that time were
Are you telling me that those are forceps?
forceps. Yes, they're forceps
Sorry,
marks.
I've dropped beats to the punchline.
So they had to drag you out.
They were absolutely kicking and screaming. In fact, what it was, I was losing oxygen, and they thought I was going to die, and so they pulled me out, and I had these dreadful forceps marks. Because I'd been losing oxygen, it affected my development subsequently, and
I mean, you couldn't really tell now.
Yeah, I mean, you can't tell now that you've got anything wrong with yourself, Wolf.
You know.
I mean, you're not gonna blow the roof off you and say you're actually Down syndrome. Or
No. Well, what it meant is, I think, if you look into the research now, it's a big indicator that oxygen starvation for ADHD.
And like autism and stuff like that.
More the not being able to concentrate and moving from one thing to another.
Yeah.
It affected my development, and I think that it probably well into my 30s that affected an awful lot of my
So what
life
were you like at
chances.
school then?
Nightmare.
Were you the disruptive
I
one?
was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Absolute nightmare. And there was the other additional factors to this. I would like you to picture a little boy of about 7 alone on a beach. Right, there I've got my little shorts on and my belt, which used to be a little snaky thing. Do you remember those things that for scouts?
No, I've never swept a chimney, unfortunately.
Have you not? Aha! Well, anyway, I had one of these little belts on and a little sort of polo t-shirt, and there's me digging in the sand alone. Now the curious thing is in that picture that I'm smiling.
Are you happy?
Yes.
He's a lone wolf.
Indeed. And I was.
Okay,
and I was.
That's terrible. That is terrible.
Well, it is. It's very. It is very bad, isn't it? But never mind. We'll forgive him. But the curious thing is, I was happy. And if you have a look at my parents, now there's a great deal of forgiveness going on with my parents with this. But in addition to the problems that I did, they were completely and utterly incapable of rearing a child.
Sounds like most baby boomers.
Yeah.
Completely.
Were you invisible?
No.
They were just more concerned with themselves.
They didn't know what to do with me. I think they were a family of hippos that had been given a giraffe.
Okay.
Were you the only child?
I have an older sister. I had an older sister.
I've got another one. A wolf in sheep's clothing.
Indeed.
Oh no.
But they really didn't know what to do with me.
Yeah.
And they were two people. My grandparents were born in the 1880s. My mother was born the year the Titanic went down. So basically I had Victorians for grandparents.
Wow.
And so you can see the sort of background that I was with.
War rationing and Victorian mentality. And stuff like that.
Absolutely. And they thought themselves so much better than everybody else around them. Right? That of course, what do you say to, a child that goes out into the street and goes, I can't play with you. Why not? Because my mother says you're common. Can you imagine how that went down? Like a cup of cold sick. Well, of course it did. And the net result, result of this is
and it's how to lose friends and alienate people.
How to lose friends and alienate people. So I had then to develop a thick skin.
Absolutely.
To get through.
There's that rich twat. Sorry.
Well,
I was just acting.
Well, yes, but we weren't rich at all.
Just not rich.
Posh.
Posh. There's that posh twat.
But we lived in council houses well until I went to university.
Was it detached?
No, it wasn't.
Right.
Do you know that's a good one? I remember, this was my mother, I remember somebody had gone to Egypt and they'd taken some photographs and they showed her the photographs of some of these. Dire poverty. It was absolute dire poverty on the banks of the Nile. And she looked at the photograph and she went, well, at least they're detached.
That was the thing though, back in the day, if you had a detached property, you were posh.
A detached shack.
It doesn't matter, as long as the word detached
But
was in there.
this was a prefab.
Was it?
This was a prefab.
It's a detached prefab.
And my mother used to come out of it wearing a fur coat.
Oh my god. I grew up in the era of fur coat.
You see that these days, people coming out of council estates and getting into a Range Rover Sport.
Yeah.
Just like, priorities.
But all of this, you see, the point of all of this is that I had to develop a thick skin to get through. And when we're talking about talent, it wasn't good enough for me to be interested in music. It wasn't good enough for me to be reasonably good at it. I had to be bloody Mozart for them to
accept you as one of them.
To accept me. And writing and words was the silent partner in all of this arrangement, all of this time, because I was a keen reader. Reading was the thing that got me on the ground, that grounded me, that made me, words were my friend.
It's funny you say that, Wolfie, because when I was younger, I was the only brown person in the full school. So I also had this alienation. So I used to go to a library, and the lady, she saw me that regular. She'd be like, you're only allowed 3 books, but you can take 7. I was reading almost a book a day. And like you say, they do become your friend. They're your comfort zone.
Also,
it's sanctuary.
This was well before the internet.
Yeah, it was. There was no internet. There was no such thing,
The kids these days aren't reading. They're not reading.
No, they're reading memes.
They're reading posts. They're reading memes.
Yeah.
They're reading. Well, they're not even reading. They're looking at porn.
Well, if they've any sense.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's the way of the world now, isn't it?
The Laymen Show does not promote pornography.
We're gonna start an OnlyFans. Come on now.
Yeah, you said that.
I'm gonna get you show a little flash.
He wants to expand the Laymen Show on some adult website.
Well, what particular niche activity? What particular niche activity you were thinking?
I don't know. Well,
Nip slips.
You pay enough.
Laymen Show, undressed.
Yeah.
Oh god.
What is this, aversion therapy?
Do you know what? Actually, Wolfie, I think this is Wolfie's therapy. Feel free to express yourself to the world.
Oh well, I am. You see, the thing is, I've done it several times before. But however, it's always best to bore you people. You see, isn't it? Always good, to spin that stuff. I think often what we do is we construct ourselves daily, regularly.
Absolutely. I mean, you're an entertainer, Wolfie. You entertain people with your voice. We do it on camera. We do it with actions and expressions, but you do it with your voice. And that was something I'd mentioned to Gabe when we first met. I said, look how well Wolfie speaks. Your vocabulary, your etiquette.
You got almost received pronunciation.
Yeah,
right. And there's the other bit, and that's why I'm bringing in the history, because we travelled in between Newcastle and Edinburgh. So when I went to Edinburgh, I was beaten up for sounding Geordie. You see, I was sounding Geordie.
Yeah.
So I was beaten up for sounding. So when we came back quite often, I was beaten up for sound in Edinburgh, you see.
And it might beating someone up because they sound different.
So,
That's the
anyway,
story of England. The English don't like the Scots, the Welsh don't like the English.
so
Irish don't like
my
everybody.
mother, being a snob, you see, decided, and also being part of that generation where they weren't really that proud of their Scottish heritage or their Irish heritage. It was that generation, or some of them, that went, we're going to be as English.
Yeah, so you
as
had
possible.
any form of it
Yes,
whatsoever.
absolutely. So it was drilled into us. You must speak properly. You must speak properly. And my sister had the same pronunciation as I have. Now, the best thing about speaking like this is that people can hate you on sight. You see,
I can appreciate that very much.
I don't know. It's always been one of my aims to speak properly, but I've given
It's always
up.
been one of my aims for
I think
people to
this
hate
is
me on
this is my
sight.
maximum level.
Yeah.
But also the business about vocabulary was, it was an armoury, because if you were keeping people there,
Yeah.
particularly if they were coming at you with pitchforks and rulers and catapults and fists,
Drawing pins in blue tack.
absolutely, you could keep
That's a
them
new one to
there.
me.
You could keep them there by giving them a good read. You could give them a good read. You could throw some shade right straight over, straight over there.
Yes, Creed! Yeah!
God damn it! I don't know if that would work nowadays though.
Oh no, it'd work even better these days. They wouldn't know what to do.
But as you say, if you've got words on your side, then
Words are
they're powerful.
yeah.
They're powerful. And what's more, it gives you a kind of a moment. It gives you a moment, doesn't it, to think, so you can see where the exit is. If you need to get out of it quickly.
Confuse them, you can ink them like a
Yeah.
square.
Yes, I can swerve. Yes, that kind
You
of
squirt them.
I can squirt them. Yes, like a squid. Like a squid. But as for being entertaining, it didn't actually strike me that I could say anything that would make people laugh until I'd actually left home. Because if you'd imagine, with this kind of upbringing, what kind of a nightmare I'd become by the time I was a late teenager, right? It was, I've no idea, it was like living with an adult baby, really. And when I got to university, within the first week, I learned something very, very important. That there were an awful lot of people who were an awful lot cleverer than I was. These people were really, really clever. And also, it was the day-to-day business of living with people that you didn't know, and they weren't going to put up with any of my nonsense at all.
So did you have to rein yourself in?
I had to learn how, basically, I had to learn playground rules.
Did you learn it the hard way, Wolfie?
Yes.
I had to learn how to play nice.
I had to learn how to play nice. I had to learn to put the top back on the jam, basically. When you're sharing a house with other people, because other people wouldn't go, oh well, it's okay. They would
It's
go,
only Wolfie.
yes.
The
you can
hair's
get
in the
away with
butter. It's just Wolfie.
Yes, absolutely. Look at that, like he's pooed on the lawn again.
My new favourite phrase: you get more flies with honey, but I'll turn that shit to piss.
What?
I'll turn that shit to piss in a minute.
Lo! If you've got a wish is my command. So so having left home, it didn't really occur to me that I could be entertaining until again I could use these words in order to either make people laugh or endear them to me rather than drive them away.
You sound unique. So when they hear you on the radio, you know it's Wolfie. You don't sound like Pete Mills, do you?
They can turn. You leave Pete alone.
I'm not leaving him alone. Do you know what, Wolfie? I was driving in my
Peter's innocent.
I was driving in my car, right? I had Hull Kingston radio on. Pete comes on the radio, and I was sat there thinking, I'm from Hull. How come he sounds double Hull?
It's double Hull.
Yeah, it is the most Hull on the radio.
He's
I've
got got an extra Hull chromosome.
I wondered why he had a gammy leg.
Right. Yeah.
It's all for fun.
It is.
Respect to your peak modes. Respect.
Well, absolutely. He's the reason why I'm talking to you now.
I was going to say.
Oh. Yeah. How did we end up on your show then?
You invited yourself.
Did we?
Yeah. It was because with the radio business, it then turned into Twittering. You see, and of course,
yes.
I don't. For me, Facebook, it's the equivalent of sitting in the front on an old city drinking lager. So I don't do Facebook at all, because I believe that with Facebook you end up just liking everybody you know, and with Twitter you can hate the whole world. So went on to Twitter to start putting things, and I had to learn how to use this. And then you said, well, what about the Laymen coming on your show? And I thought,
I think it was a joke at the time, Wolfie.
Didn't you sneak on with Red Eye?
Later on, yes.
I actually took Red Eye down, yeah.
Yes, he came to do a recce to see if I wasn't mad. And yes, and I said, well, yes, you can come on. I mean, I'm very eclectic in my tastes, as you well know. So yes, well, there we are, and it was good. You were entertaining. We got on. There wasn't a fight.
It was close. It was close. I did break the microphone, didn't I?
Oh, yeah.
I bumped it with my head in.
Well, a boxer had done so the previous week.
Oh, I'm scot-free.
Yeah, you can wash your hands.
Yeah.
Yes, he was fiddling with us. So leave it, Echo, leave it, leave it, and then the next time I looked up with it, he's going like this.
That's a claim waiting to happen. That thing. You seen the size of that microphone? Can knock out a child.
I was going to say, I mean, he's probably lost a few brain cells in there.
Yeah.
No offense to the man, he's probably lovely, but
absolutely.
So there's a reason why people fight, and he's not a chemical engineer.
I think I could have done with some boxing lessons early on.
Oh yes.
Do you know if I've got any regrets? It's that I should have told more people to get stuffed.
I think everybody has that.
But having the skills to back up the request is.
Well, that's it. When I was younger, I didn't have those skills. I was more fearful of my parents. So the repercussions going home were worse than whatever the bullies were doing.
Oh yeah.
But as I got older, I'd learnt that I can take a bit of pain.
And I like it.
He's got to twist. He's got to twist, isn't he?
This is why he's here. But I learnt to take a bit of pain and then dish it back. And then suddenly life changed. And if you do hit that point in your life,
It's alright.
so professional, your confidence does improve. It's amazing what you can feel just being able to think, I can stand up for myself now.
And talking of pain, on to my first marriage. Right, you see,
That's the time.
you see,
This has turned into a counselling session, it really has. Yes, Wolfie, tell us about your marriage.
my marriage. Well, you see, she taught me how to fight.
Did she?
Oh, she did.
Did she?
She was very good. She was very, very good. We were both very good.
Women know how to fight.
Oh, she was marvellous. Are we
talking about physicalities? Or verbally?
Oh, verbally.
Oh, I just had images of Wolfie's head.
Oh, well, she took a couple of
Just hair
swings.
pulling out.
But
Fucking.
who wouldn't? She took a couple of swings, but there we again. I managed to dodge. But she taught me how to fight, and I said, "You're being cruel." She said, "It keeps you sharp." So we had great fun. I once tried to ignore her because she was going straight on with it one afternoon. Do you remember the old broadsheets that you used to be able to get? And it was something like
The Independent, yeah.
So I was like. I couldn't see her face, can't see.
She tried to just a hand
No, she
like
set
a face
fire
master.
to, she set fire to it.
it.
She said the flames came up, you see, and I had to stamp it out from the ground.
Oh, that seems like a crazy bitch. She must have been beautiful.
Yeah.
She was. Do you know, all the greatest loves of my life have all been redheads.
Fire
Did you not learn your lesson the first time, Wolfie?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Not at all. So, where would you like to go next?
Well, I've got a question.
Oh,
Go on.
yes.
Wolfie, God-given name, or are you running from something?
Yeah. We spoke about this the other day. We actually had an informal chat, and I was like, why is Wolfie called Wolfie? And Gabe said he's probably on the run.
Well, no, I had my original name was Dougie.
Dougie.
Because, it was, everything had to be
I'm not
bloody
American.
Scottish.
Dougie? Alright, Dougie?
Yes, I think do you know, I was 18 before I could look at shortbread without throwing up. And when I was at a nursery, I think it was the equivalent of nursery, primary school, first school, or whatever it used to be.
Nursery, primary, secondary.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Junior. We had juniors then.
yes. Well, because I also had a bit of a speech impediment, which sometimes comes out if I'm very excited.
What does it sound like, Wolfie? Can you demonstrate
No, I
this?
can't. I mean, I have a bit of a stutter. You've probably got plenty of,
Plenty of
examples of
footage.
that. Yes.
I'll compile it into compilation.
Yes, this is Wolfie's spit tape.
Yeah.
Well, it's better than having sex tape, isn't it? So, right.
Coming soon.
Well, it'll be silent, I can tell you.
Coming soon. Silent movies from Wolfie.
Silent and insipid.
Oh God. Like Buster
fucking
Keaton.
Very healthy.
But this is what you see. What happened was that because I couldn't say the name, they used to say doggy, doggy, doggy. So I bit them very, very hard. The mothers were absolutely furious. But after that, it was Wolfie for a bit, and I quite liked that.
Yeah,
very much.
it suits
Yes, absolutely.
Suits you.
So people began to call it me again after I went to university and started being a bit more sort of socialised, as you say, tamed.
Right.
We could do with a name change.
Baboon.
What do you know? Mandrill. Do you know that?
Mandrill.
Mandrills. They've got a pomegranate coloured arse.
Oh,
they have.
oh, yeah.
They're blue. They're blue.
You haven't
and
seen
yellow.
Gabe's ass. It's not a pomegranate.
I didn't think that was part of the deal.
It's all brown. Trust me.
At least it's consistent.
Yes. You could call me a.
Like the slice in a Hovis loaf.
I guess I'd be more like a capuchin, and I guess you'd be the baboon.
A marmoset. Marmoset. And that reminds me, my grandmother, you see, before the days that you could have laws about exotic pets, and of course I think it's long gone by the time I met her, was she had a marmoset monkey, and it used to be on a sort of a little lead. You couldn't do this
Rip your face off.
Absolutely. It was furious. It was
It's furious.
Feral.
absolutely
Waving its fist at people who walk past.
Well, more than that, it used to go on top of the unit thing and throw china.
Yeah.
And when it had got run out of china at people, it used to throw shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say you'd be lucky. You was lucky when you first said China. I was gonna say you're lucky it wasn't shit.
Yeah.
And then you said shit. I was like, oh, there we go.
Yes, it used to
There's the
hurt.
punchline.
Yeah, and the thing is, she used to let it. Because she believed
not much you can do.
she believed it was a
Pick it
very
up, throw it
good
back.
judge of character.
Oh, so if it was throwing shit at you, you were a bad person.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
And was it true?
Trust the
Did it
monkey.
only throw
This
excrement at bad
is
people?
I've only got this second hand, of course, because I wasn't around at the time. There we are. But anyway, the marmoset. The marmoset was wonderful. So you're going to be the marmoset then. Who throws the most shit amongst you two?
That would be me.
It probably
That
him.
would be me.
Is it?
I'm the one who sort of like tries to keep this
I
above
get-
legal.
So what the oh damn it! What are they called? Bonobo.
Bonobo.
Yep.
Bonobos. Oh, well, I know all about their behaviour.
Yes.
Yes.
Everybody knows about bonobos.
Trading sex for favours. They do. Bonobos, they use it as a form of currency, don't they?
My arsehole hurts.
You scratch your back and I'll scratch mine.
No, I don't know. I think we throw enough between us together. We throw enough.
I think we're gonna have to call this one here, Amber.
You're out, aren't you? You're done in.
All the monkey references.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, we are the laymen. We are the monkeys on the mic.
Well, yes,
Beautiful.
that's how you introduced yourself.
It was the best thing to do.
Yeah, that was the entire concept of the
Yeah.
start of this show was two uneducated monkeys on a mic.
That's right.
Now, where do you want to go? What do you want to ask me next?
Where are you going from here? You're on the radio now. Are you going to do something extravagant?
I mean, we're all stuck in COVID lockdown at the moment.
Yes.
Any plans on the horizon?
I've already had one career.
Can you hear the chimes, people?
That's the chimes of earth.
It's the harbingers of death.
Just before we started rolling, he did mention Uranus.
The chimes of Uranus, which you can't get yet. But it's a very good idea. Yeah. Next on Ideal World, everybody.
Didn't have enough beans.
Yeah, so what have you got in the pipeline?
Well, as I said, I've had one career, so I quite enjoy just going from one day to the next. I enjoy talking to people because I'm far more interested in what ordinary people do. It doesn't matter if they're a writer, they're a musician, or they're an artist,
Podcasters.
or podcasters, or people that work for a voluntary organisation that are helping people through cancer, whatever it is. I'm interested in what they've got to say, what they've got to do, because I'm far more interested in them than the lives of any celebrity.
I have a question then. So meeting all these people, all these different backgrounds, experiences, is it feeding your thirst? If you were an avid reader when you were younger, you've got this thirst for knowledge. Does it feed your thirst?
Yes.
Do you take it away with you?
But I also realise, that what a lot of people want to be is they want to be heard.
Yes.
They want to be listened to, they want to be heard. And I'm not saying they want to be fully understood in a psychological sense, they just want to be acknowledged for what they do, and also to make those connections themselves. And if I can do it in some way, and I can do it kindly, because I want to help as many people as I can, because that is a big motivation for me.
Which I think you're doing. I mean, I'm sick of seeing your posts of the amount of guests you're interviewing, Wolfy.
Is it tedious for you?
Maybe we should get him to pass them on to us.
Yeah, the ones you
Do you mean the
want.
ones I don't like? Yes. Yes, the ones I don't like, and I could send notes and say, ask them this. Yes.
Yes.
Give them a hard time.
That's right. We'll put the pressure on.
I've got a list.
Have you?
A blacklist.
I am not
Emphasis on the
falling.
black.
I am not falling into that. You'll send me all queer.
Sorry, it's all I've got.
I don't know. Anything else you want to ask Wolfy before we tie this show? Do you know what? We could sit here and talk all day. That's the truth.
Well, yes,
So
I could too.
would you be happy for us to come back and have a chat with you again?
Yes, when is it completely taken off air and prosecuted for this? Yes.
For slander and libel.
We have good solicitors.
Very, very
Allegedly.
Good. Allegedly. Yes, it's his favourite word, isn't it?
It is. Yes. We're going to have to hashtag that thing now.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Well, no, I've enjoyed talking to a free and frank manner today.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Free of any restraints and watershed, without Pete Mills looking over your shoulder.
I know, but I like
This
that.
is one,
I'd love to get Pete on one day, dig into him.
one of the most fun interviews we've had.
Yeah.
For sure.
But anyway, before we leave, we have got a competition coming up, and I don't know if you've noticed this thing on the table in front of Wolfy. This is the celebrity mug made by Peter and Paul. And I don't know if you can see, Wolfy is there, and we are above him, with James Acaster in the middle. No, that's a
Only
sandwich.
figuratively. Yeah.
So we shall be giving away one of these mugs, kindly donated by Peter and Paul. We also have a Laymen t-shirt, and even better, we have some fantastic wireless Bluetooth earphones.
We can also give away some stickers actually. 'Cause we still got
And
loads of
stickers, yeah. Yeah, we'll just put it all in a bundle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll be running the competition. We'll film a little sketch for it, so you know what to do. But yeah, look out for that. Wolfy,
Yes.
it's been a pleasure.
It has been a pleasure.
No.
What do I do that?
That's right, fist bump. That's it,
There we
respects.
Peace.
Wolfy, thank you.
That was awesome.